Now I am referring to you healthcare sector. Exemptions under the GST with regard to healthcare sector. Specified services provided by cord blood banks. Cord blood banks have been exempted from levy. This exemption omitted with effect from 18th July 2022. Service provided by cord blood banks by way of preservation of the stem cells or any other service in relation to such preservation now attract the GST. My dear friends, what do you mean this cord blood bank, which is different from the blood banks? How it is different? I will tell you. Blood banks collecting the samples and keeping at large in the bank from the human beings, but cord blood bank is collecting blood especially to preserve the stem cells, resulting that tomorrow or day after tomorrow, at any time in future period of time, this particular cord blood is going to be useful to eradicate almost more than 100 diseases. What is actually it is? When the mother giving birth to the baby is coming from the mother womb with a particular nerve, detaching the baby from the mother by scissoring that particular nerve, from that nerve collecting requisite quantum of blood, especially at the time of the mother giving the blessing to the baby. Here, my dear friends, that particular cord blood stem cells are going to helpful to the mother or baby in future period of time to eradicate more than 100 diseases. It should be kept in a proper place and should be preserved in a proper manner. That activity carried out by cord blood banks to preserving it and charging the service charges for that was exempted. Now from 18th July 2022 onwards, absolutely attract the GST. Further referring to my friends, exemption not there for the cord blood bank. Further referring here, recognized system of medicine services are provided under the healthcare sector qualify from exemption. What are they? Allopathy, English medicine, yoga, naturopathy, Ayurveda, homeopathy, Siddha, Unani. These services offered by authorized medical practitioners or a nursing home or an hospital. It may be multi-specialty hospital or maybe an ordinary hospital or it may be a clinic, as the case may be, qualify from exemption under the GST. GST is nil rate. Apart from that, allied services like nursing staff services, physiotherapist services, technician services, lab assistant services, ambulance services, diagnosis services also be exempted. What do you mean by diagnosis services? Diagnosis services of collecting the human being samples by the scan centers or the lab test centers and giving the detailed description of that sample. Thereby, the authorized medical practitioner can directly eradicate the relevant problem to address and eradicate. For that purpose, the lab test reports, scan reports are highly useful. Therefore, these diagnostic centers, in the name of labs, in the name of scans, in the name of scans, in the name of labs, absolutely qualify from exemption if they carried out diagnosis services. Of course, ambulance services is free from GST. That means to say that ambulance services chargeable, but that charge is free from GST. Lab assistant services, technician services, physiotherapist services, nursing staff services, which are allied to the authorized medical practitioners as well as the recognized system of medicines in India, therefore it is qualified from exemption. On the other hand, chronic healing services, chronic healing treatment, acupressure treatment, acupuncture treatment, Reiki treatment, color therapy treatment. These are all well taxable supplies, not recognized medicine in India. Maybe recognized medicine in other countries, but as per the Indian Medical Establishment Act, it is not recognized system of medicine. As a result, if a person providing chronic healing treatment services without touching the human being and taking the energy from the solar and providing services to heal the diseases or curing the diseases, in that case it may be healing or curing diseases, but under the Indian Medical Establishment Act, chronic healing treatment not accepted as a authorized medical treatment, not a recognized system of medicine, resulting that a medical practitioner, a certified medical practitioner, if he carried out chronic healing treatment, attract the GST. Acupressure treatment, pressure, giving by pressure on the particular place, where for example I have a stomach pain, where giving the pressure on the particular, especially on the belly, clockwise, round clock, reverse clockwise, on a periodical manner regularly, thereby to eradicate the stomach pain. In spite of that, this particular acupressure treatment not a recognized system of medicine in India. Therefore, even though a medical practitioner who may be authorized medical practitioner or a particular hospital or a nursing home, whatnot, if they provide acupressure treatment and charging the charges, absolutely attract the GST. Acupuncture treatment. What do you mean by acupuncture treatment? Taking the needle and punching on the skin. For example, this here I am getting some pain in the jaw, this side, right side. Therefore, by inserting small needles here, by punching the skin and eradicating particular disease, it may be worthy to take the treatment for few diseases. In spite of that, in our Indian Medical Establishment Act, this particular acupuncture treatment not a recognized system of medicine, resulting any supply of this nature for consideration will attract the GST. Reiki treatment services. What do you mean by Reiki treatment services? This particular Reiki treatment is very close to the human being heart. I mean to say that Reiki treatment is like that. One example I will give to you. When a kid, while riding the cycle, small cycle, he fallen down. Small injury on toes. And he's crying because of injury. And he fallen from the cycle. Small cycle he is riding and fallen. Then his mother rushing over there and lifting him and kissing him. Don't worry, nothing has happened, nothing happened. Like that, hugging him. His mother, thereby such a close treatment is given to that baby, to that kid, and slowly he will forget that pain and all, because mother came and giving the so much of a closest love and affection treatment. With that, that baby stop the crying and smiling. Where is my cycle? Looking here and there. That means to say that Reiki treatment is very close treatment of human being by giving more love and affection. but it is also be not a recognized system of medicine under the Indian Establishment Act. As a result, any nursing staff or maybe authorized medical practitioner who may be MBBS doctor, for example, authorized medical practitioner, if you provide such a recce treatment services and charging the charges, absolutely attract the GST. Color therapy. What do you mean this? Different colors with that particular color waves fall on particular place on human body, and that particular disease may eradicate, may heal the disease. For example, I have severe headache. Very often headache is coming. Color therapy treatment where there is a light thrown on my forehead. It may be a different type of color head, or maybe a orange color light is throwing and sending that waves on my particular skin. On a periodical basis, gradually my headache is eradicated, cured, and now there is no history repeating in future. That means I am fresh, no headache for me. In that case, I am very happy, and I propagating such a color therapy to undergo for various type of diseases to eradicate. In spite of that, if a particular hospital or nursing home or medical practitioner carry out such a color therapy, in spite of that, that color therapy may be a recognized system of medicine outside India. But in India, under the Indian Medical Establishment Act, it is not recognized system of medicine. Therefore, any charges charged by any person by providing such a color therapy services absolutely will attract the GST. Further, my dear friends, hair transplant services. Hair transparent means, what do you mean this? I am not having the hair here, therefore I want to undergo treatment to get more hair. Therefore, I get more hair here on my forehead. I am paying 1 lakh rupee monthly. One hair is growing on my forehead, on the top of forehead, and now my face so handsome because I'm looking so young. So much of hair came. I paid so much of money to the authorized medical practitioner. Absolutely attract the GST, because hair transplant services for beautification of the face or cosmetic or plastic surgery services, especially for beautification of the face, that is not covered under the exemption list, will attract the GST, except when undertaken due to congenital or defects, due to congenital defects, or due to developmental abnormalities, or due to injury, then only it is exempted. Meaning what? Cognital defects, developmental abnormalities. A person is at the age of 5 years, almost all 4 feet height, and his growing height is abnormally going. In that case, surgery required. That is warranted to do so. Such a cognital defects or developmental abnormalities, to eradicate it or to prevent it, treatment is given by way of plastic surgery, qualify exemption. Or otherwise, I am fighting with the fire, saved certain few children who are got gutted in the fire. I rush the place and I save the children's life. I evacuated from that place. While doing so, my skin partly, or maybe what we can call lightly burned. Thereby, for me, required a plastic surgery on my particular hand, because this plastic surgery is not beautification of my face or my body. It is for warranted, because by fighting with the fire, I saved certain children's life, thereby skin little bit damaged. That particular damaged skin is now I am undergoing for treatment of a plastic surgery. In that case, such a process is warranted, as a result qualify from exemption. Further, my dear friends, biomedical waste may treatment facility. Biomedical waste is this. This is called biomedical waste. Biomedical waste. Hospitals undoubtedly providing excellent services for healing or curing diseases. Hospital producing so much of waste every day. Cotton with the blood, syringes, tablets, vapors, like that. There are so much of waste. It should be properly disposed of. Some of the waste should be buried. Some of the waste should be burned. Some of the waste can able to throw into the sea without causing any environmental effects. By keeping in mind the environmental aspects, dispose of this particular hospital waste. Such a hospital waste is a biomedical waste. To how to dispose it, there is a separate course is there. Mr. Rafi undergone that course, a qualified person, and he is collecting the waste from the hospitals and disposing of in a proper manner. As a result, Mr. Rafi charging the charges from the hospital. So Mr. Rafi is providing biomedical waste treatment facility. In that case, my services was exempted, but now the government want to tax on such service also. With effect from 18th July 2002, service provided by operator of the common biomedical waste treatment facility to a clinical establishment by way of treatment or disposal of biomedical waste or the processes incidental thereto exempt from the GST has been withdrawn, meaning thereby from 18 July 2022 biomedical waste treatment facility services absolutely attract the GST. Further, my dear friends, rehabilitation professional services, you are aware of that. Rehabilitation professionals, I explained to you already. Rehabilitation professional services. This point I referred to you under the charitable sector, where the rehabilitation centers at hospitals, education centers, or a separate establishment centers operating by the government or section 12AA or 12AB of the Income Tax Act registered persons. If that is the case, absolutely exempted in the hands of government or charitable institution registered under the 12AA or 12AB of the Income Tax Act. Rehabilitation services. Here, this exemption even now also available to rehabilitation units. Services provided by rehabilitation professionals recognized under the Rehabilitation Council of India Act by way of rehabilitation therapy or counseling and such other activity as covered by the said act at medical establishment, education institutions, rehabilitation centers established by central government, state government or union territory or an entity registered under section 12A or 12AB of the Income Tax Act qualify from exemption. Even it is now qualified under the GST under exemption category. Rehabilitation professional services, but provided by whom? Provided by the government or the what we can call entity registered under section 12AA or 12AB of the Income Tax Act. Further, my dear friends, under the healthcare sector presenting here, exempted supply services by way of public convenience such as provision of facilities of bathroom, lavatories, or funeral. These are qualify from exemption. Toilet services, facilities of bathroom, washroom, lavatories, urinal or toilets. Whoever may operate it by charging the charges, that is free because it is essential services which is offered to the public at large. The supply is absolutely qualified from exemption. Facilities of bathroom, washrooms, lavatories, urinal or toilet facilities qualify from exemption. Now, my dear friends, we have, as I told you, ample of amendments taken place in the case of healthcare sector. We already referred the cord blood bank services taxable from 18 July 2022. Biomedical waste management treatment services provided to clinical establishment also taxable from 18 July 2022 onwards. Like that, we have furthermore some of the exemptions here which are recently got minute amendments which I am going to present to you. Here what is on the screen is none other than a particular clarification of the CBIC. If you refer my reference here is a hospital, medical establishment, authorized medical practitioner who is master of surgery doctor holding authorized practitioner certificate as a doctor. On the other hand, patient. Now, clinical establishment given the treatment to the patient charged 2,25,500. Since clinical establishment provided authorized medical practitioner services, namely authorized system of medicine, allopathy, English medicine, this particular hospital provided services to patient, charged 2,25,500. And while providing services, visiting doctor is a visiting doctor visited hospital, given the treatment to the patient, thereby hospital paying to visiting doctor 2 lakh rupee out of 2,25,500. That means hospital retained 25,500 paid to the visiting doctor, let us say 2 lakh rupees. Now, visiting doctor fees not in the course of employment, because visiting doctor, this fees absolutely exempted in the hands of visiting doctor, 2 lakh rupees fully exempted. Now, hospital is retained 25,500. Is it taxable? Clarification of the CBIC here is that is 25,500 retained by the hospital out of 2,25,500 also be not taxable. Reason here is that particular 25,500 is also be providing services of healthcare, because there is a room rent, there is a security services, cleaning services, dry cleaning services of the cloth of the particular bed where the patient has been occupied it, and cleaning, housekeeping. For these services, the hospital is spending the money from the 25,500 retained amount. That is also be healthcare nature services, resulting that the entire 2,25,500 is not taxable in the hands of the hospital, and out of that money 2 lakh rupees paid to visiting doctor who is authorized medical practitioner visited the hospital, given the treatment to the patient, in that case 2 lakh rupees collected by the visiting doctor also be exempted under the GST. Now coming to the hospital also exempt from GST on such amount retained, that is retention money. As I told you, whatever amount retained out of the money collected from the patient and paid to the doctor, and retention money also be exempted in the hands of the hospital. Further, my dear friends, referring to here one example: authorized medical practitioners, doctors, are liable to pay GST. Doctors, they have the clinics, maybe in their residence itself or a separate place also. Dear friends, upfront I am telling you, authorized medical practitioner absolutely exempted from the payment of the GST. However, in certain cases, they are liable to pay GST. When means, if they carried out chronic healing services, acupressure treatment, acupuncture treatment, Reiki treatment, color therapy treatment, or otherwise, if they carried out hair transplant services or plastic surgery for beautification of the personality of the human beings, that activity is carried out, absolutely attract the GST. At the same time, if that particular clinical establishment owned by authorized medical practitioner received any services or goods which are reverse charge nature, RCM applicable. If the RCM is applicable, my dear friends, recipient liable to pay GST. If the recipient is authorized medical practitioner here, where he is liable to pay GST, that comes into picture, then they have to pay the GST irrespective of the turnover limit. Irrespective of the turnover, the recipient liable to pay GST. Where the recipient is authorized medical practitioner, if he is liable to pay GST under RCM, in that case they are supposed to pay the GST by having the registration. Further, if the medical practitioner supplying two services or supply the goods or services, he is giving to inpatient is coming to them giving the treatment in the name of authorized medical practitioner services, exempted. Inpatient who admitted in the hospital, in the clinic. Some of the outpatients, they simply will come and just visiting in the doctor's place and getting the advisory and prescription and going and buying the medicine and going out. So in that case, the authorized medical practitioner is supplying two things. One is called as supply of services, being authorized medical practitioner, and the other one is sale of goods, namely medicine. In that case, two separate supplies. It is not a combo supply. Now he is paying the 500 rupees doctor fees, exempted, and buying 2000 rupees of medicine. Buying for rupees 2000 rupees of medicine is buying from the same place where the doctor has medical kit also to sell. In that case, that supply of goods, medicine will attract the GST. No sir, the case like this, a inpatient is admitted in the hospital or clinic where the surgery is taking place. While carrying out the surgery for the patient, there are so many medicine has been consumed during the surgery time, and the bill came is almost at 250,000, 2,50,000. The bill came 2,50,000, which includes some of his services, some of the medicine used as a consumables while carrying out the surgery. In that case, is a compulsory supply. What is the predominant element of supply? medical treatment, namely the healthcare service, which is in the nature of authorized medical practitioner or an establishment or clinical establishment or hospital in the authorized medicine, in the course of authorized medical system. Therefore, absolutely qualify from exemption. Entire value of 2,50,000 not taxable. Further, my dear friends, bring into a notice veterinary clinic services, namely veterinary clinic in relation to health care of animals or birds. Animals includes wildlife animals also. One simple example I would like to bring to a notice here. A particular Clean and Green Private Limited provided biomedical waste treatment facility to veterinary clinic and a clinical establishment in January 2023. Is a taxable supply of service? If so, GST will be levied. Yes, it is a taxable supply of service. GST absolutely will levy. Clinical establishment only was qualified earlier when the biomedical waste facility provided to clinical establishment was exempted from 18 July 2022 is taxable. For supply of services in relation to biomedical waste treatment facility services to veterinary clinic, nowhere exemption was given, therefore well taxable. Further, my dear friends, amendment furthermore taken place with regard to clinical establishment. Amendment furthermore taken place here with regard to clinical establishment or authorized medical practitioners or paramedics are concerned. There is slight amendment taken place from 18 July 2022. Services by way of healthcare services by a clinical establishment and authorized medical practitioner or paramedics are exempt from GST, provided that nothing in this entry shall apply to the services provided by a clinical establishment by way of providing room other than intensive care, namely ICU or critical care unit CCU or intensive cardiac care unit ICCU, neonatal intensive care unit NICU, having room charges exceeding rupees 5,000 per day to a person receiving health care services. Meaning thereby, earlier prior to 18 July 2022, the law was if a medical practitioner or the authorized medical practitioner or a clinical establishment or an hospital providing authorized system of medicine to the patient by allotting the room to the patient, namely to the inpatient, room has been allotted, the room charges irrespective of the value was exempted. Now in the given case from 18 July 2022, if the room rent per day to a patient exceeding 5,000 rupees, having room charges exceeding rupees 5,000 per day, here very carefully they have said, not said here anything per room. They said having room charges exceeding 5,000 per day to a person receiving healthcare services, exemption not applicable. That means hospital, clinical establishment or a particular authorized medical practitioner running a particular nursing home or a clinic, if you provide services to inpatient, though it may be authorized medical system of medicine, but charging the room charges to a patient exceed rupees 5,000, the entire value of room charges will attract the GST in the hands of the hospital, in the hands of the doctor who may be authorized medical practitioner, except in the following cases. One is called intensive care. If the inpatient admitted in the intensive care center or intensive care unit and that particular hospital providing ICU or CCU or ICCU or NICU services where the room charges to a patient even exceed rupees 5,000, exemption is continuing. Exemption continues. That means no GST applicable. If it is intensive care unit, critical care unit, intensive cardiac care unit, neonatal intensive care unit, then only the room charges to inpatient, irrespective of the value, exempted from GST. Other than that, inpatient room charges charged by the medical establishment exceeding rupees 5,000, entire value whatever they charge is subject to GST from 18 July 2022. Exemption is granted in the given case. Services in the form of assisted reproductive technology ART, in vitro fertilization IVF, exempt from GST. Healthcare services provided by a clinical establishment, an authorized medical practitioner or paramedics are exempt, as we understood. It has been clarified that abnormality, disease, ailment of infertility is treated using ART, assisted reproductive technology procedure, such as IVF, in vitro fertilization, and accordingly services by way of IVF are also covered under the definition of healthcare services for the purpose of exemption notification. What do you mean this? ART, assisted reproductive technology, include all measures involving the manipulation of gametes and embryo outside of the human body to help a couple conceive. I will explain to you here. It is a simplified manner, can say that it is not a tested baby but something different. If I am not wrong, subject to correction, I am presenting here one eminent hero from Bollywood, famous hero in Bollywood, by giving his sperm to the particular clinical establishment, and that is used for another lady to consume, to give the baby to Mr. Eminent Hero. So what happened here? Mr. X, Mrs. X couples, but Mr. X sperm is given to somebody else, and somebody else are consumed the baby for Mr. X and Mrs. X. Mrs. X is not consumed, somebody else consumed. Such treatment has been taken place, will come under this category, resulting that such services also be under the recognized medical system of medicine, resulting that qualify from exemption is the meaning of that. Like that, IVF, in vitro fertilization,